Hi, everyone. We're going to get started in just a couple minutes, but just wanted to welcome you all to today's webinar. So, as mentioned, we'll be getting ready to go in just a couple of minutes, but welcome to today's webinar. As you have probably heard from joining in, today's webinar is also being recorded. So today's topic is getting to market faster with a minimally viable campaign, or MVC. Whoops. Sorry. Sorry about that. My mouse is very finicky sometimes. So we'll get started in just a minute or so. But as folks are joining on today's webinar, how to get to market with an MVC, or minimally viable campaign, we will have 20 minutes or so for issue insights, 10 minutes for a really quick demo related to today's topic, and then an open Q&A. So some notes, housekeeping notes as everyone joins in. All participants today will be muted throughout the duration of the presentation to ensure best audio quality for everyone. Please submit questions anytime during the webinar using the Q&A specifically. You can do that by clicking on the Q&A button in your Zoom call as shown here below. And lastly, we are recording today's webinar and we will share the link in our follow-ups so you can listen to it again and share it out with others who might be interested. So please, if you have any questions related to today's topic, please be sure to submit them in the Q&A again. That just makes it easier for us to review them after the webinar, as well as filter them and answer them. I'm joined today with two other issue members who are going to also help answer questions throughout today's presentations. So as folks join on, just a little bit about myself. My name is Megan Cole, and I am a product marketing manager here at Issue. I've been here for 3 years now, and in that time, I've really worked very closely with the product teams, as well as, of course, working on our marketing initiatives in terms of different releases and using the product really actively for Issue and seeing how it can best fit into a lot of different marketing plans and strategies. Before I worked here, I've worked in advertising and design. So I'm always really excited to kind of show the different ways that you can think about using Issue to really get the goals that you want to reach. So with that, as folks are joining on today for today's topic, I would love to get a little bit of insight into where everyone is coming from in terms of their experience and getting an idea of who all is joining us today. So I'm going to quickly launch a poll just to see what level of marketer you all would consider yourselves, whether it is beginner, intermediate, advanced, expert, or not a marketer. No worries if you are a beginner or not a marketer. Today's webinar is really intended to be an accessible and easy to kind of digest and learn or use for inspiration in other content that you might be doing along the way as well. So as we kind of get started for today's webinar, I always like to do a couple of quick polls to get an understanding of who's joining. And one other question that we have today, looks like everyone is answering today's poll topic, so thank you so much. So one other poll that I have before we dive into today's topic is, would love to know the main reason everyone is joining today for today's MVC campaign webinar. So if you want to learn tips and tricks for using Issue, learning how to go to market faster, learn about how to create a minimally viable campaign, or MVC, all of the above, or none of the above. Feel free to choose all that apply. This just really helps me better tailor today's presentations and get an idea of what you are all interested in. So of course, today's topic is on how to create a minimally viable campaign, but we'll be going into all of the topics listed in the poll as well, in terms of tips and tricks for using issue related to MVCs, or how to go to market faster. Oops. So as we answer today's poll, just to give a little bit of context behind who Issue is and our mission here. Issue helps people transform static designs into high performance content for every digital marketing channel, and really meant to be a solution for a lot of different needs, which is really perfect for today's topic. The way we do this is a pretty easy 3 steps. First, all you have to do is publish your content to Issue. So you can upload any PDF content that you have, or other digital document types. So we also support Word documents, PowerPoints, any other digital files. We have a lot of different digital files that support uploading to Issue. Once you upload it, we automatically convert it into this really nice flipbook that can be shared all over the web. But not only can you share that flipbook version of your content, but you can also repurpose your content and share it anywhere on a multitude of different digital channels. So that's what I'm going to focus on a bit in today's demo portion, on how you can repurpose your content for different social channels or different devices as well. And lastly, the ability to use statistics to measure the impact of the content that you're sharing out there, and use the insights from those statistics to better repurpose your content in the future. So thank you all for answering today's poll questions. Looks like the majority of you are mostly here to learn how to create a minimally viable campaign, which is perfect because that's today's topic. So when we really look at the trends from 2020 into 2021, a big thing that we've seen on the marketing team itself is that digital is really a new economy, or maybe not a new economy, but an ever-growing economy. A lot of the top marketing teams are really investing in robust digital strategies now more than ever. In the first half of 2020, people worldwide spend more time than ever on their digital devices, and that trend really has not slowed down. So this makes a really competitive space, which can seem intimidating for new marketers or people who are just trying to get their digital process kind of up and going. So we really explored the different ways you can really efficiently go to market. So some of those considerations, especially for beginners or folks who are trying to figure out how to be smart with their time and money and resources, include addressing the fundamental marketing challenges that all teams are faced with regularly. So how can you build and maintain an authentic brand while testing various campaigns across all different kinds of channels, as well as how you can engage your audience to drive conversions when you only have so much time and so few resources? So the quickest way to do that is by creating a minimally viable campaign, or MVC. So what exactly is an MVC? We know that an MVC is super important, but what does that mean and what does it consist of? Really, it is based off of the philosophy of getting the most value out of the least amount of time, talent, and resources. So the thing about MVCs is that it emphasizes experimentation, the importance of user feedback, and iterative design processes. So continuously kind of improving, changing, and making tweaks along the way, as opposed to spending a really long period of time and investment at the beginning to set off a campaign and never change it after that point. So the concepts of MVCs really borrow from product design and product processes as well, or kind of startup and entrepreneurship processes, looking at the kind of minimally viable product models, or Eric Rice's lean startup. So it's getting an understanding of the baseline nitty gritty of what you can start with that will be just enough to see results. And then how can you iterate and build off of that ground floor that you've created. Oops. So when we're thinking about the process to develop your MVC, there are 3 pretty simple steps that you should consider. They may not be actually as simple as 1, 2, 3, but the intent is that you really don't need to do pixel perfect work when you're developing your minimally viable campaigns. So step 1 is interviewing friends or other folks that you might have, getting it out there, and lastly, testing before you invest further. So step 1 for your interviewing your friends is really talking to people that you already have relationships with, whether that is your current stakeholders, partners, customers, or even your friends, can really help jumpstart ideas that will fuel your campaign thinking. So this is where you are trying to gather your insights for what campaigns you might want to do, whether it is immediately or things you want to scope out into the future. You really don't need a multi-million-dollar research budget to understand the market and your customers, as much as understanding what questions you should be asking, having an understanding of your product and the values that you perceive versus what your interviewees answer, and finding that middle ground in order to create your campaign. So a great way to kind of get started on interviewing your friends would be asking folks who know your business why they love what you offer versus your competition. So success at this point is really defined by discovering at least one thing you didn't know when you started. Step 2 on getting it out there. Now that you have compiled some of those interviews and gotten some of your insights built out, there are a lot of different ways that you can leverage what you've learned to create content. So some examples of content, of course, on our end are catalogs or lookbooks or other long form content pieces, which we have inspiration for and templates for available on the issue blogs as well. But what's really important to remember at this point is that you're creating something that's good enough to be viable so you can launch it as quickly as possible and learn from it and create iterations again. So the urgency of step 2 when it comes to getting your content out there quickly using the insights that you pulled from your interviews is really meant to kind of push you and your team to get creative out into the wild. So I think it's very similar to taking that first step that might seem scary and intimidating, but once you are really in the process, you know it's much easier than you thought, or you can always make changes, you can pull it back. There's a lot more flexibility than you may think before you take that first step. Which of course takes us to the last step, testing before you invest. So the final step in the MVC process isn't really a final step as much as it's meant to be a flywheel where the value of testing feeds back into another visit to your friends and you interview them again and see what their thoughts are, or you see from the comments of the campaigns that you're running or the metrics of the campaigns that you're running, how successful they have been in order to get the next creative into market. So when you are doing this testing and evaluating, it's such an integral part of marketing, but you don't have to put a lot of money into your investment during this testing phase for your campaigns. It's much more about pulling the data, insights, understanding your market and what they value based on how they're reacting to your content in order to then figure out which campaigns that you are running under these MVCs are worth investing more money into. So really what's important about this is not just the speed of it, but doing more with less. So being able to pull really strong insights from the content that you're creating quickly, and then iterating, improving it, and continuously improving it in a short period of time, while also having a lot more resources and research and confirmation of tests than you did when you started. So the intent of a minimally viable campaign is really to get twice the data in half the time. We have 5 tips to get your campaigns out faster. So the first tip is a great way to test this for a really small budget is by using social ads to test new messages in the market, whether you're making slate copy changes, headlines, or body copy for different types of promotions, as well as seeing the results super quickly. So that's a really effective way to test your messages in the market. When you are testing, again, really for the MVCs versus the investment part of it, you should really only do 1 round of edits ideally before you are moving on to your next campaigns and iterations. If you can, depending on your team sizes, reducing approvals as much as possible is really key to the pushing it out quickly and getting it out there quickly. So if you can get one boss to sign off and skip a lot of the red tape, that will save you a lot of time, effort, and money for the testing process. Again, I think it's really important. Steps or tips 4 and 5 are not letting that perfection or that idea of having a pixel perfect word for word absolutely going to result in a 200% increase shouldn't be a stressor that prevents you from going to market. So it's really important to remember with minimally viable campaigns, they're meant to be kind of sprints that can validate any hypotheses that you have and shouldn't really stand in the way of having a good campaign that can then be improved. So a couple ways that you can create MVCs or create content for MVCs with Issuu. Again, when you're sharing your content or when you've uploaded your content, there are a lot of different ways that you can use that and repurpose it for your campaign assets. So with our article stories and our GIF maker, those are just a couple of our free features that you can use to create a bunch of different shareable assets that you can then use for any testing purposes that you have on social channels or campaigns. And then more specifically, we have the visual stories tool, which is really great for testing out any copy options, especially. So with Issuu visual stories, you can convert your assets into kind of vertical video slideshow content that can then also be used for promoted posts, especially on Instagram stories or Facebook stories. And it's a great way to kind of test out different copy options as well for your campaigns. Which brings us to today's demo. Whoops, sorry. Going to go over to my homepage, and here at my Issuu page, all you have to do again, of course, is upload your content by going over to the left side here and clicking upload. So if you haven't uploaded any content on Issuu, of course, you can upload any content that you have, whether it is PDFs or other digital document types. So for example, I'll just quickly upload this PDF and it will register and convert into a publication. So here I already have a quick little lookbook of my content, but I'm going to go over here and go to my published publications because I already have a few and show you how you can use that these resources to create different iterations of content to share on a bunch of different channels or to test for campaign purposes. So in this publication, this is the one that I've just been using lately because it has some nice images as well as a great article on what an MVC is, which is also, again, available in our blog. I can share my publication, of course, as the original version, or I can create articles off of it. Looking more specifically into the visual stories tool, this is the one that I think is really great for creating versions of content to test for different campaigns. So here I'm just going to select a range of pages, including my MVC article, and create a visual story. So the way that our visual stories tool works is we take all of the elements from your long form content and convert it into these pre-templated video styles. My personal favorite, especially for MVCs and for testing copy, is the engage style. So I go over to the style here and then I click on engage. And then going back over to my assets tab, you can see that I have all of the images from the pages that I previously selected, as well as my profile icon. So you can always, this will be whatever your profile page is, but you can always change that out as well. And I can pull any of the text from my original content and really easily copy and paste it, or I can make different test versions of this content as well. So here, let's just play around with creating a visual story. Going to drag some images in. If I want to add any additional images, I can also do that by going over to the upload more image and drop any files that I have on my desktop as well to add more variety in case I don't want to use just the items that were in my publication. And now I can also add, let's see, reviewing friends, or citing headline, version 1. So I can type in copy, I can copy and paste any copy that I already have written out from my original publication. And then once it is to my liking, I can preview what those assets would look like. So one thing that's great about this is not only can I create these, but I can also add on more pages. So here I'll go over to this square and I can duplicate this and change whatever I want to change. So the option. So as I'm playing around with this, there's a lot of different ways you can maybe test different versions of your copy. A/B testing it on your social channels is always really useful if you want to see how one image performs over another or different copy versions perform over another. The visual stories tool is a really great way to create a lot of different assets very quickly. So here I can then again preview what this visual story looks like. And as you can see, we automatically add in those new pages as well. Once the preview and content that you have made is to your liking, all you have to do is really click create story. This tends to go a little slow while I am streaming. So I can show you once it is created, you will have access to those resources on the left-hand side of your workspace. So here you can see all of the visual stories that I've made. I've also made some variations of stories so I can test out how the different ones perform. And I can use these assets across all of my different social channels, especially on those story channels for that vertical video content. So I would say the visual stories tool is a really great way to kind of test your MVC content. Another piece that you can do when you are using any of your long form content, of course, is our GIF maker. So with the GIF maker, you can preview different spreads from your long form content and download those files, which can then be posted on different social media channels or exported to MailChimp. I won't be covering the MailChimp beta tool today because we'll have a longer webinar in the future covering all of the ins and outs of the publishing to MailChimp. But these are another great way to really quickly kind of create variations of content and test it out. One thing that I will also show you when you have your publication that has been published and is ready to share, at the top right over here, we have the share button where you can share your publication link as well as share it on a lot of different social channels. So this is just an easy way to share your content out in terms of your flipbook content. And again, you can really do this to test how it performs on different channels, or how you can add links and video, oops, sorry, wrong, share links, not add links, how you can use the share links from any of your content to share different variations of the content that you're sharing as well. So those are just a couple of ways that you can really start to build out the resources you want to use for your minimally viable campaigns. If you want to share resources or images or use the images from your long form content for other purposes or repurpose those content pieces, those are just a couple of the ways that you can do that. So I have one more poll question before we jump into the Q&A. Very simple yes or no. If you are interested in joining free workshops on how Issue can help transform your content into stories, emails, and social posts to engage your customers. We have the weekly Issue Academy workshops that go much more in depth with the demos that I did today. We always try to be timely and just show a quick proof of concept of how you can use some of our tools, but these workshops are a great way to dive even deeper. These are done by our customer success team members. They are every week. Tuesdays go into getting started, how you can prepare your assets to upload. Wednesdays is focused on mobile optimization, going into a couple of the features that I covered today. And Thursdays are statistics and integration. So how you can use some things, including our mail integrations, or how you can see the results using the statistics as well. So these interactive workshops are completely free. And if you're interested, just click yes, and then we can go into any of the Q&As as well. All right, so Q&As. If you have any questions, feel free to submit them in the Q&A section or in the Q&A where you can click Q&A. Joining me today is also Michelle Zuka, who is another digital marketer expert who helped me a lot with today's presentation as well. So if you have any questions, please send them our way and we'll try to answer them. So one question I see really quickly is if any of our past events are posted to the Issue site. So yes, all of our webinars are recorded and shared out. You can find any of our past presentations on issue.com/issue. Let me pull that up real quickly. So issue.com/ISSUU. You can find all of our past campaigns, all of our past publications and our past presentations, as well as recordings of these presentations. And we'll be sharing out, of course, a presentation on this one as well. Another question we have, is MailChimp the only email third-party tool you support? Currently, MailChimp is the only one that we have a direct integration in, but you can use any of the assets that you create in Issue or any of those other versions of content that you create in Issue on any email channels as well. So here, let me just show quickly what that means. So when you create your animated GIFs or any of these content pieces, what you can do is download the source file and download it as a GIF file. So when I click this, it will generate an automatic looping GIF that can then be saved to your desktop or your computer or your Dropbox folders, wherever you're saving your assets, and added into your email content or the body portion of your emails as well. So right now, in terms of integrations, we have a direct one with MailChimp, so it'll automatically import into your library, but these are compatible with any email service providers. Have a question on being able to password protect a publication. So we do not have password protected publications, but we do have unlisted publications. So actually, let me go over to the upload process again. So here I can upload content. Let's just upload a file really quickly. And then over here, I can check off unlisted. So unlisted is you get one unlisted for your plan, and then you can get, with our different paid plans, you can get more unlisted. But those simply just make a private version where if they have the link, they can access it. Otherwise, they won't be able to find it. Another question on visual stories. So visual stories for campaigns. In particular, the campaigns using visual stories are really good for Facebook or Instagram campaigns for your stories. So using your business accounts on Facebook to create promoted posts. Don't have time today to do a deep dive into that, but what I can show you is how you would take these assets and then create a promoted content off of it. So what you would do is create a story, download these assets, and then use the downloaded assets in your Facebook Ads Manager or any other ad managers tools that you have for social channels to create promoted posts with them. That would be the way that I would best suggest using visual stories in particular for campaigns. So any like sponsored posts or promoted posts that you might want to invest like a couple dollars on to test out how it would perform, that would be the way that I would suggest using visual stories. When it comes to the other elements, so here I have my visual story created. I can download these assets again or download the individual pages to have these assets as a way to test out different campaign types. When it comes to the other ways that you can do that for emails or newsletters, I would really suggest using the GIF tool version of that. One question, animated GIF tool set to automatically fit Instagram sizing. Yes, so the animated GIF tool is a square format, which is great for Instagram as well as Facebook sizing. Another question we have, I like the visual stories, but I find automated system pulls content randomly. Yes, I would say that the visual stories tool, we try our very best to automate the content to the best of our abilities, but some ways that I would suggest tailoring that would be to be really particular about which page ranges that you're selecting that have a lot of images to do the story creation, as well as definitely, I personally like the engage style because it's really easy to edit the texts as well. And I think we have time for one last question. So is there a way to use visual stories to drive readers to article stories or their online publication? So there are a couple ways to do this actually. If you have your visual stories, so over here on the visual stories pane, visual stories can be shared as their own custom web page that looks like this. So this would be if you are sharing a link to your visual story as opposed to the individual assets, which can then link back to your full publication. And another great way that you can use these assets when you are creating any promotions or anything like that is using the links to your publications or linking out to any URLs that you want to. It doesn't have to be specifically going back to this visual story. It can also go to any of your article story links or any of your publication links as well. So the way you would do that is create the assets from your visual story and then get the separate links from your articles or other pieces within your content library on issue. And that is all the time we have today. So thank you all for joining again today's session. And again, we will be sharing out the recordings as well as the presentation shortly. So have a great day. Thank you all.